Ha! Guys, I built the glider from Tears of the Kingdom in real life. Let's check out how I made it. To start off, I've got a couple of pretty large slabs of poplar wood, and I'm using this for two main reasons. One, it's fairly lightweight for anything even resembling the color we're going for, and two, it was cheap. That was actually the most important stuff. So, I've got all of the different pieces that I need made out of wood patterned out here, and I'm just going to draw their shapes out on the wood, and I'm gonna cut these out mostly using a bandsaw. I made these shapes by just grabbing a screenshot from the game, picking a relative size compared to what I thought was Link's height, and just scaling all of the pieces to that. I then printed them out in several pieces on just a normal printer, taped them together, and cut them out. Yes, I am fully aware that this is not the best practice use for a bandsaw. Sorry. We've got all of the pieces cut out, but two of them need to be put together because I couldn't find a board long enough to do that all in one. So, we are going to drill some holes, add some glue and some dowels, and hope that holds it together well. Here is where it's time to really let my lack of joinery knowledge shine. I am completely making this up. We didn't show repeating the process over and over, but there's actually like 4 of these pegs holding everything together. All right, everything is cut up and shaped, but it's not round. I've got all these square corners and sides to things, and I'm gonna take them down using an aggressive wood removal tool. This tool is shaped like kind of an upside down bowl covered in little spikes, and I gotta say, it does an amazing job at just tearing off material, shaping so quickly. You do have to be careful with it though. I did slightly nick one of my fingers and it did not feel great. I wasn't just rounding the corners. Some of these pieces actually had some real shape to them, especially the main bow that makes the shape of the whole wing. And so I used this same tool to sort of add in some of the curves and shape the sort of eagle head that's on the front of it. And again, it worked great. It was way faster than most other tools I know of. We've got all the pieces ready to go. It's time to start assembling. I'm making this up as I go, so we'll see how it works. If you know someone who does like high quality wood joinery and you hate that person and want them to suffer either a stroke or heart attack, I recommend you send them this video. You can also send it to any shop teacher that you want to have a stroke as they watch me drill toward my own hand. Perfect. I used the larger dowels to fit the two bigger pieces together. I used the same thing for all these small pieces, drilling in holes and using glue and smaller dowels to reinforce the connections. The game shows leather strapping being wrapped around pieces of the wood to help hold it together, and I wanted to do that both for the visual and for a little bit of added strength. And I got it wet because that way it'll shape better to the wood, and I've heard that as it dries, it can sort of shrink a tiny bit and tighten up and give a more stable hold. The pieces are together, they're pinned, they're glued, they're tied. It's a bunch of different techniques mixed together, but I'm pretty happy with what I've got and the speed that I got to this point. So I can now pick this whole thing up. I'm in my studio, so I don't have a whole lot of space, but I can lift it, and that's what's important. It all holds together. I think it's sturdy enough. So next, I've got some cloth that I'm gonna make the actual sail portion out of. So there's gonna be some cutting and trimming and sewing, and that's gonna look good. After tracing out the actual shape that I want the sail to be, I'm adding a little bit of allowance all the way around it because I am going to sew a hem onto it, so it's not just a raw edge fabric with all of the fibers separating and stranding. So that's what the extra lines I'm drawing on, as well as leaving a space to add some support in the front of the wing. I've known how to sew for most of my life, and I've actually taken some sewing classes, but it's been a long time since I've done anything more than just like stitch one little quick thing. And so this is the biggest sewing project I've done in years, even though as sewing projects go, it's really small, but it's interesting to try and relearn even the small things I'd forgotten. And as every professional seamstress or tailor will tell you, the best way to sew something is by standing up in front of a desk with the pedal on the floor and you're hunched over looking at things awkwardly. This pattern was made the same way as the pattern pieces for the shape of the whole glider. I just put the whole thing in Photoshop, traced an image, and cut it out from normal paper. I really tried to get a good color match for all of the colors seen on the glider, and for the most part that was just buying the different colors in the store. And I did add a little bit of fabric medium, which helps it bond better to fabric so it won't flake and chip as much later on. I think I did a pretty good job matching the color, and in the end I think it makes it really look like the one in the game does. Honestly, one of the most annoying parts of this whole build was that the fabric I was using was so absorbent to the paint that it took forever. Like, I could only paint a tiny bit at a time before I had to put more paint on the brush and just keep going. So this took a long time. If you look at the color of the main symbol in the middle and then like the lines with the triangles on the sides, they're actually slightly different yellows. And so I did mix them up just a little bit differently. Once again, trying to match the game as close as I could get. The frame is all built and the sail is looking great. Now I'm just adding on a little bit of color to the part of it that has some color. I'm not even using real wood stain. I'm using acrylic paint because it's the color that I want and I already have it, and honestly it works just fine. As always, a huge thank you shout out to all of my supporters on Patreon. If you're interested in joining my Patreon supporters, the link for that is down in the description. For the leading edge of the kite thing, I've got these nice bendy pieces of bamboo, and I sewed a little channel all the way through the cloth. It's kind of like tent poles in a collapsible tent, and that should just help hold everything right where I want it and give it that look of just being curved on the front instead of just being pulled tight in between the connection points. Look at that. Fun fact, these bamboo poles come from bamboo fishing poles that I bought at Walmart. They were like $3 each. Attach it to all the other ones, and somehow it has to attach onto these spots, I think, and I don't really get how I'm supposed to do that. In addition to making it up as I go, the game designers don't have to worry about how exactly something is physically built and, whether or not it's completely possible or not. I do. Out. Well, I was gonna maybe glue the straps in place, but gluing leather to wood is slow and obnoxious, and screws are fast and easy. And I don't know if the person who made Link's glider actually knew about screws or not, but I think he would have used them if he'd known. Okay, the sail is attached. It's time for the tassels and the streamers. I think that'll be it. Maybe a little bit of decorative paint here and there. Remember when I said I nicked my finger with the wood shaping power tool? You can see it here. The proper drilling technique known as the finger vise. All of these tassels are just made of embroidery thread. I got one little skein. Is it still called a skein if it's embroidery thread, not yarn? Anyway, I got one of those for each tassel, and then I just got another one for the brown to wrap around it, and then these little wooden toggles they sold at the craft store as the little wooden toggles. Worked great. Just applying a little bit of darker leather dye to the straps that are supposed to be a darker brown. Ideally, this would have happened before I attached them, of course, but this worked out pretty well just using a Q-tip to apply it. The glider is all finished. Let's see if it actually works safely. I'll be honest, this thing
weighs about 15 pounds and has about half of a meter of square fabric. So the added weight to reduced velocity ratio is pretty terrible. So I'm gonna be testing it here on this slightly sloped lawn where I'm like 3 feet above the lowest point that it gets. That's as brave as I get. No! I know the problem, I need more speed. I think the speed was the issue. Oh, low stamina. I need more stamina wheels. It's early game, guys. All right, well, this size doesn't work. Wonder how big it would need to be to actually work.